Okay, I want you to picture a ghost. And I don't mean the sheet with holes kind. I mean a bureaucratic ghost, a person who occupies physical space, walks the streets, has a heartbeat, breathes the air. But on paper, he simply does not exist.
We are starting heavy today.
We have to, because the stack of sources we are diving into today covers a figure who is currently, and I mean right now, January 2026, probably the most dominant physical force in global basketball. But for the first 18 years of his life, Giannis Antetokounmpo was that ghost.
Yeah.
He was stateless, effectively invisible to the world.
It is such a jarring contrast to where we are today. You look at the NBA standings this morning and you see this 31-year-old veteran who just recently dropped a stat line that people are comparing to Wilt Chamberlain. He's rewriting what we think is physically possible.
Right.
And then you look back at the source material from, say, 2010 or 2011, and you see a kid in Athens who literally couldn't leave the country. He didn't have a passport from anywhere. He was just trapped in this legal void.
And that is the mission for this deep dive. We aren't just going to recite the MVP resume or, list the rings. We all know he's good. The goal today is to really understand that impossible trajectory. How do you go from hawking sunglasses on the street in Sepolia to having a 20-assist game as a power forward in the NBA?
And doing it while essentially deleting the statistical outliers of the 1960s. I mean, the run he's been on since, the 2024 NBA Cup, it's not just great, it's bordering on illogical. We are watching a player who is systematically hunting down these records set by giants like Wilt and Oscar Robertson.
And he's doing it in an era where the defenses are just infinitely more sophisticated.
Infinitely.
I love that phrasing, by the way. Deleting statistical outliers. And he really hasn't slowed down, has he? I mean, we're sitting here in early 2026, and he's fresh off winning the NBA Cup MVP in late 2024, and finally capturing that elusive medal for Greece at Eurobasket 2025.
He's playing maybe the most efficient basketball of his entire career,
Yeah,
which is rare. It's so rare to see a player who relies so heavily on athleticism age this gracefully.
Oh, for sure.
Usually, in that explosive first step goes, the game crumbles. But Giannis has somehow managed to refine his game, to almost slow it down mentally while speeding it up physically. It's incredible to watch.
So let's unpack this properly. Let's rewind the tape all the way back. We need to go to Sepolia, a neighborhood in Athens. Because before he was the Greek freak, and long before he was the franchise icon, he was just a kid trying to help his family survive.
Right. And to understand the hustle on the court, the chasing down blocks, the diving for loose balls, you had to look at the hustle on the streets of Athens. Giannis was born there in 1994. His parents, Charles and Veronica, had immigrated from Nigeria just 3 years earlier.
And they had to make just a heartbreaking choice right at the start, leaving their eldest son, Francis, behind with his grandparents in Lagos.
Exactly. And that really sets the tone for the level of sacrifice involved here. They moved to Greece looking for a better life, but the reality was incredibly harsh. Because they didn't have work permits, steady, legal jobs were. They were basically impossible to find.
If you don't have papers, you don't have a contract.
No contract, no security, nothing.
So the burden fell on the kids. I was reading in the notes here that Giannis and his brother Thanosis were basically the family breadwinners as elementary schoolers. They were out on the street selling watches, handbags, sunglasses. This wasn't a lemonade stand to buy a new bike.
No.
This was survival.
It was absolute survival mode.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the pressure of being, 10 or 11 years old? And knowing that if you don't sell 5 pairs of knockoff sunglasses, your brothers might not eat a full dinner that night.
And you're doing this while constantly looking over your shoulder because legally, you are completely vulnerable.
Completely.
Let's dig into that legal vulnerability for a second, because this is the part that I think a lot of American listeners might not fully grasp, this concept of just sanguinis.
It's a Latin term. It means right of blood. Greece, like a lot of European nations, bases its citizenship laws on bloodline, not on the soil you're born on.
So here in the U.S., if you're born in Milwaukee, you're an American. End of story.
Right. But in Greece, Giannis was born in Athens. He went to Greek school. He spoke Greek as his primary language. But because his parents were Nigerian immigrants without legal status, he wasn't a Greek citizen.
But he wasn't Nigerian either, officially.
No, because he'd never processed paperwork with a Nigerian embassy. So he's in this complete limbo. He is a man without a state. He can't travel. He can't easily open a bank account. He can't be anything officially. He was stateless until he was 18 years old.
Which makes his entry into basketball even more improbable. I mean, he didn't even start playing until 2007. He was 13.
13.
In the grand scheme of pro sports, that is ancient. You have kids in the U.S. playing AAU basketball at, like, age 6.
He was a late bloomer in every single sense of the word. And when he did start playing for Phil Athleticos, it wasn't in the EuroLeague under these bright lights. He was playing in the Greek second division, the A2 league.
So we're talking about gyms with, what, concrete floors?
Concrete floors, no air conditioning, and barely any fans in the stands. This is not a glamorous start.
And this is the part of the draft story that always just blows my mind. We are so used to NBA superstars being these college phenoms like Zion Williamson or EuroLeague stars like Luka Doncic who were winning MVPs against grown men at 17. Giannis wasn't even an all-star in the Greek second division.
Well, technically, he wasn't eligible. That honor was reserved for first division players. He was actually selected by the coaches to participate as a kind of special treat for the fans, but it didn't count officially. That's how far off the radar he was.
Just a total mystery, man.
He was a skinny, raw kid playing in a second-tier gym, averaging decent, but not, earth-shattering numbers.
And yet, the scouts found him. It feels like finding a needle in a haystack, except the needle is also invisible. I want to talk about the name, though, because we all know Antetokounmpo now. It's iconic. It's on jerseys everywhere. But that wasn't the original family name, right?
No, it wasn't. And this ties right back to the bureaucracy we were just talking about. The family name is Yoruba. Antetokounmpo.
Antetokounmpo.
It's a beautiful name.
Yeah.
It translates to, the crown has returned from overseas.
Wow. That is wildly prophetic, by the way.
Isn't it? But when Giannis finally got his Greek citizenship papers on May 9th, 2013, and we're talking literally weeks before the NBA draft, the transliteration process just mangled it.
How so?
Well, they transcribed Antetokounmpo into Greek characters, which don't have exact equivalents for the D or B sounds in the same way. So then when they put it onto his passport in Latin characters, it became Antetokounmpo.
So the name on the back of his jersey is essentially a typo, or at least a bureaucratic interpretation.
It is, but he embraces both. He's been very clear about that dual identity. He was raised with Greek culture. He's baptized Orthodox Christian, but the household was Nigerian. He grew up with the values, the food, the culture of his parents.
I've heard him say he feels 100% Greek and 100% Nigerian.
Exactly. It's not a split, it's a doubling.
So he gets the papers just in the nick of time. The Milwaukee Bucks take a massive flyer on him at number 15 in the 2013 draft. A total gamble. A high-risk, high-reward project who is, skinny as a rail.
I don't think even the Bucks knew the reward would be this high. I think they were hoping for a solid starter, maybe a Nicholas Batum type of player.
Right, a useful long-armed wing.
They did not know they were drafting a multi-time MVP and a future Hall of Famer. No one did.
And then the growth spurt happens. And I don't just mean his skills. He physically didn't stop growing.
That's where the freak moniker starts to move from a catchy nickname to just a literal description of reality.
A statement of fact.
Exactly. He fills out to 6'11", 243 pounds of just pure muscle. But it's not just the size, it's the biomechanics. There was this fascinating analysis done back in 2017 that measured his stride.
Oh, I saw this in the notes, the one dribble stat.
Yes. But let's really break down what that means for a defense. The average NBA player, they cover a certain amount of ground off a dribble. But Giannis was measured covering 15 feet.
15 feet off a single dribble.
Single dribble. That is 5 feet more than the average player.
5 feet. That's basically a whole person's length extra. You're erasing a defender from the play.
It fundamentally changes the geometry of the court. Think about standard defensive doctrine. You pick up the ball handler at the three-point line, right?
Right.
If a normal player drives, they need 2, maybe 3 dribbles to get to the rim. That gives the help defense, the guy standing on the weak side, time to rotate over and cut him off.
Time is the key variable there. And he's stealing time.
He's breaking the clock. Exactly.
Yeah.
Giannis gathers the ball at the three-point line, takes one dribble, and he is at the rim before the help defender can even plant his feet to take a charge. He just bypasses the mid-range entirely.
He's like a video game character with a glitch. He just teleports from the perimeter to the restricted area.
Which forces defenses to panic. It forces them to build the wall. You have to put 3 guys in the paint before he even starts his drive.
And here is where his game's evolution comes in. If you put 3 guys in the paint, who's guarding the shooters in the corner?
Nobody.
Nobody. And suddenly you're giving up wide open threes.
Precisely.
Mhm.
And that physical dominance led to this whole concept of him being positionless.
Yeah, and I feel like we throw that word around a lot now, but Giannis really, really defined it for this era. He's listed as a forward, he plays center, he brings the ball up the court like a point guard.
The breakthrough moment for that, I think, was the 2016-17 season. That was the year the entire league realized, oh, this isn't just a project anymore. This is a problem.
What happened that year?
He became the first player in the history of the NBA to finish the regular season in the top 20 for all 5 major statistical categories: points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks.
All 5. That is insane versatility. That's like being your team's best pitcher and best hitter at the same time.
It means he was a system unto himself. He wasn't just scoring. He was protecting the rim, initiating the offense, getting every rebound. That was the moment he went from intriguing prospect to bona fide superstar.
And that trajectory just shot straight up into the championship years. Let's get into that 2018 to 2021 window. This is where he starts filling the trophy cabinet.
Oh, it was a hardware haul unlike anything we'd seen in a long time. He wins back-to-back MVPs in 2019 and 2020.
And he joins Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and LeBron James as the only players to win 2 MVPs before turning 26.
That's the list. And then in 2020, he adds the Defensive Player of the Year award.
Which puts him in the most exclusive club in basketball history. I mean, only Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon had won MVP and DPOI in the same season before Giannis.
It certified him as the best two-way player on the planet, bar none.
I have to mention the ruse, though. The COVID lockdown story. Do you remember this?
Oh, the hoop story? That was classic Giannis. Just a classic move.
Yeah. During the pandemic suspension, he told everyone in the media that he didn't have access to a basketball hoop. He made it sound like he was just at home doing push-ups in his living room and, I don't know, running around the block.
And it turned out to be a complete and total lie.
A total fabrication. He admitted later he had a gym and a hoop the whole time. He just wanted to lower his opponent's guards. He wanted them to think he was coming back rusty.
That is some serious competitor paranoia right there. It reminds me of Jordan making up slights just to get himself motivated.
Right. It really does. It shows you his mental edge. He is always looking for that slight advantage. But that mental edge was tested to its absolute limit in the 2021 title run. We have to talk about the injury.
The Eastern Conference Finals.
I remember watching that live. Game 4 against the Hawks, he went up to block Clint Capella, came down, and his left knee just bent the wrong way.
It was gruesome. It looked like the kind of injury that takes a year, maybe more, to recover from.
Yeah.
I think everyone who saw it thought his season was over.
I honestly thought, that's it. The Bucks are done. The dream is over.
And then the MRI comes back and shows no tears, which was a physiological miracle in itself. But the fact that he missed only 2 games and returned for Game 1 of the NBA Finals against the Phoenix Suns, that's still baffling from a medical standpoint.
It speaks to his pain tolerance, but also just his sheer desperation to win.
And he didn't just return to be a decoy out there. He completely dominated.
He had back-to-back 40-point games in the finals, but Game 6 was his masterpiece.
50 points, 14 rebounds, 5 blocks.
And what's the most important stat from that game?
Oh, easily. 17 of 19 from the free throw line.
Yes, because we have to remember the context. The entire playoffs, opposing arenas were counting to 10 every single time he stepped to the line. It was a whole mental game. Hack Giannis was a legitimate strategy that teams were using.
The narrative was that he couldn't close because he couldn't shoot free throws. And in the biggest game of his life, with the championship on the line, he steps up and it's 17 of 19. He conquered his biggest weakness at the exact moment he needed to.
He closed out the series with a performance that rivals anything in NBA Finals history. He won the Finals MVP unanimously, and that completed the Triple Crown MVP, DPOI, and Finals MVP.
And again, who else has done that? Only MJ and Hakeem.
That's the list.
It felt like that championship cemented him. Like no matter what happened after, he was a legend. He brought a title to Milwaukee after 50 years. But here we are, nearly 5 years later in 2026, and looking at the modern era stats, he somehow got even better.
He did. And this is where the deep dive gets really interesting for the basketball nerds listening. This current era, from about 2022 to where we are now, is about him becoming a historic anomaly. He started systematically breaking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's franchise records.
All of them.
Scoring in 2022, assists in 2023, rebounds also in 2023.
He essentially just overwrote the history books of the entire franchise. But the standout moment for me in that transition period was the 64-point game against the Pacers in December 2023.
A new franchise record.
Yes, But the key detail there, the thing that really stands out, he scored 64 points without making a single three-pointer.
Wow.
It was the first time a player had scored that many without a three since Shaquille O'Neal in 2000. It's just pure, unadulterated dominance in the paint and from the mid-range. It was a statement. He was saying, I don't need to play your modern game to beat you. I can play my game, and you still can't stop it.
It's bully ball, but with an incredible amount of finesse.
Right.
And then we get to the recent seasons. The 2024-2025 season, last season, was just ridiculous.
It really was. First, he leads the Bucks to the NBA Cup title in late 2024, wins the MVP of that tournament. That showed he still had that hunger for hardware. But then, in January of 2025, he goes on this efficiency streak.
I remember.
26 straight games scoring 20-plus points on 50% shooting from the field. That is the longest streak in the history of the NBA.
That is just robotic consistency. It's him basically saying, I am a guaranteed bucket every single night. But then came Wilt Week in April 2025. I still don't think people appreciate how crazy those 3 days were. We've become desensitized to his greatness.
We have Giannis fatigue. It's a real thing, but you have to look at the numbers. It was April 3rd and April 5th, 2025. On the 3rd, he puts up 35 points, 17 rebounds, and a career-high 20 assists.
Stop right there. A 20-assist game. For a power forward, that is just, it's absurd.
That is Magic Johnson passing with Shaq's body.
Yeah.
It's a glitch in the matrix. It shouldn't be possible.
And then, just to prove it wasn't a fluke, 2 days later.
He follows it up with 36 points, 15 rebounds, and 10 assists. So if you combine those two games, he had 70 points, 30 rebounds, and 30 assists over a 2-game span.
And the last player to do that.
Wilt Chamberlain in 1968.
Hence, Wilt Week. It's like he just decided to cosplay as Wilt Chamberlain for a few days. And we have to remember, Wilt was doing that in an era where the pace was frantic and, frankly, the average athleticism across the league was much lower. Giannis is doing this against sophisticated zone defenses, 7-footers who can shoot, and complex scouting reports designed specifically to stop him.
That's the so what here. We are watching a player in his 30s who relies on athleticism, somehow get better as he ages. He's shifting from pure Greek freak physical dominance to this cerebral, surgical dissection of the game. He's not just running over people anymore. He's outsmarting them.
But, despite those numbers, the 2025 playoffs were a bit of a heartbreak, weren't they? It's the tragedy of team sports.
It was. The Bucks lost in the first round to Indiana.
Yeah.
And it was a tragedy of circumstance because Giannis was playing at a god-tier level. He averaged career highs in the playoffs, 33 points, over 15 rebounds a game.
And that Game 5 loss?
The Game 5 stat line is haunting. He had 30 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. It was the first 30 or 1-8-22 game in playoff history. He played a perfect individual game, and they still lost the series.
That's the heavy part. You can be perfect and still go home early. But he bounced back. We're in the 2025-26 season now, and just a couple of months ago, in November 2025, he passed Kareem for the most 40-point games in Bucks history.
And let's not forget the buzzer beater against the Pacers on November 3rd. That had to feel good. A little bit of revenge for that playoff loss.
Definitely. But his impact isn't just in the NBA. We have to pivot to the international stage because, for a long time, that was the one hole in his resume. The narrative was that international Giannis wasn't the same as NBA Giannis.
And it was a fair critique at the time. In the NBA, there's a defensive 3-second rule. You can't just park a big man in the paint forever. In FIBA international play, you can. So teams would just pack the paint, build that wall, and dare Greece to beat them with outside shooting.
And for years, they couldn't. 2014, 2015, 2019, 2022, Greece struggled to medal.
I remember Eurobasket 2022. He went off for 41 against Ukraine, which was incredible. But then they got bounced by Germany in the quarterfinals, and he got ejected from the game. It just felt like he was pressing, trying to do too much on his own.
But fast forward to the Paris 2024 Olympics. That was a huge moment for him personally, regardless of the result on the court. He was selected as Greece's flag bearer for the opening ceremony.
The first black Greek flag bearer.
Mm-hmm.
That is a massive cultural moment, especially given his entire background story and the issues with his citizenship early on.
To go from stateless to carrying the flag for your country, that is a movie script.
It was validation, total acceptance from the nation. And individually, he was a monster in Paris, averaged tournament high 25.8 points. But again, the team just wasn't deep enough. Greece fell in the quarterfinals.
But the breakthrough finally came, Eurobasket 2025.
This was the moment. He captained the team, and they finally broke the drought. They won the bronze medal, the first medal for Greece in men's basketball since 2009.
He was named to the All-Star 5. I think for him, bringing hardware home to Greece might have meant almost as much as the NBA title.
I agree. It solidified his legacy at home. He's not just the guy who went to America and got rich and famous. He's the guy who came back and fought for the national team year after year until they succeeded. He paid his dues to the country that raised him.
Now, speaking of getting rich, we have to talk about Ante Inc. Because Giannis isn't just playing basketball, he's building a business empire with his brothers, and it really is a family affair.
It's a very unique dynamic. You have the Antetokounmpos, Thanasis, Kostas, Alex. They do everything together. They invest together. It's not just Giannis writing a check. It's the family making a move as a unit.
They bought stakes in Nashville SC, the Milwaukee Brewers, and my personal favorite, Candy Funhouse.
Yes, the Canadian candy company.
It's so on brand for him, though. He has this sort of childlike enthusiasm. I mean, this is a man who discovered smoothies in his rookie year and tweeted about it like he discovered fire. So now he's the executive producer of a reality show about candy. It just fits.
It is funny, but there's a serious strategy there, too. He's also the executive producer on The Flag Makers for National Geographic, which is a documentary about immigrant workers in a flag factory that connects so deeply to his own story. He's curating a portfolio that really reflects who he is, a guy who loves fun, but also deeply understands the immigrant struggle.
And his family life has really blossomed in recent years. He married his longtime partner, Mariah Riddle-Sprigger, in September 2024 at Costa Navarino, which looked like a royal wedding, by the way.
It did.
And they just welcomed their fourth child, Aria, in May of 2025.
And he still wears the number 34 because his parents were born in 63 and 64. Everything he does is rooted in that family unit. I think that stability is what allows him to stay so consistent on the court. He has this rock-solid foundation at home.
And that loyalty extends to the city of Milwaukee in an era where superstars are constantly jumping ship to create super teams. You know, Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Giannis has signed extension after extension. He signed the Supermax, then the 2023 extension. He stayed.
He bucked the trend. He proved you can win in a small market. And I think that's part of why he's so beloved, even outside of Milwaukee. He has this humility. The dad jokes in the press conferences are legendary at this point.
They are so bad. They're terrible, but in the best way possible.
They are. But they show a guy who is just comfortable in his own skin. He's a killer on the court.
Yeah.
You know, the mean face, flexing, screaming. But off the court, he's donating staff salaries during crises, launching sustainable equity funds. He understands his platform. He's not too cool to be kind.
So let's synthesize all this. We have the boy from Sepolia who shared sneakers with his brother because they literally couldn't afford two pairs. And now, in 2026, he is the franchise leader in, well, almost everything for the Milwaukee Bucks.
So what here is that Giannis represents a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Physically, he showed us a new archetype, a 7-footer with point guard skills and a running back's body. But globally, he represents a new kind of superstar. He is loyal, he is international, he is family first, and he is just relentlessly, brutally efficient.
He didn't need a big market like LA or New York to become the face of the league.
Not at all. And he did it the hard way. He didn't have the AAU pedigree. He didn't even have citizenship. He just had work ethic and once-in-a-generation genetics.
And resilience, unbelievable resilience. To be stateless and invisible and then force the entire world to see you, that is a special kind of drive.
He really is.
So here is where it gets really interesting, and this is the thought I want to leave our listeners with. We are watching him in his 30s now. As we've discussed, he just passed Wilt Chamberlain in specific consistency metrics last year. He passed Oscar Robertson and others.
Right.
If he keeps this up, if he sustains this post-30 evolution where he's putting up 30 points on 60% shooting every single night,
Yeah.
where does he end up in the Gioic conversation?
That is the big question, isn't it?
Mm.
We usually reserve those top spots for Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, but Giannis is currently deleting the statistical anomalies of the 1960s. He is doing things in this modern, sophisticated era that we thought only Wilt could do against, with all due respect, plumbers and firemen.
So if he plays at this level for another 3 or 4 years, if he adds another ring, another MVP...
We might have to rethink the entire hierarchy of basketball greatness. He could force his way into that top 3 or 4 of all time.
A terrifying thought for the rest of the league, but a thrill for us to watch. You listening to this, just take a moment to appreciate that we are in the middle of the good old days right now with Giannis. Don't take those 30-point triple-doubles for granted.
Absolutely. We are witnessing history in real time.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.